"Who is she?" Riker asked, and Charles knew he didn't mean the baby. "I met Kim when I went into Asheville," Fox answered vaguely. Riker looked at him disbelievingly, and Charles noted the tinge of pink that reddened Fox's neck. He shrugged and wouldn't look his alpha in the eye. Charles watched as Abigail's lips parted in sleep, and he moved the empty bottle away, laying her across his shoulder once more and rubbing her back. She gave a very unladylike burp, then moved her head slightly as if snuggling into him. He could feel moisture gathering in his eyes. This was going to kill him. He could feel the rip in his heart already and knew it wouldn't survive another. He stood. "I think you need to get Marco to check her over." "What's wrong?" Fox said in alarm. Charles shook his head, laying her back in the infant carrier. "Nothing as far as I can see, but she's a newborn." 10 days, Red said gruffly, looking at the birth certificate. Charles nodded. "I've got enough spare clothes and a crib you can use." Charles kept everything his friends' babies grew out of. They always had to be ready to get a new shifter family or even just a baby. Emmett and he had been stockpiling equipment for just such an eventuality. "I'll go get it." "We'll get it," Red said, and practically marched Riker out of the kitchen. Charles sighed. That wasn't what he wanted. Being left alone with Fox was the last thing he needed right then. He dug around in the bag and brought out 2 more prepared bottles. "You should be good for the next few hours, and I know Dinah has plenty more." Fox just stared at him as if Charles had suddenly started talking in Swahili. "Dinah has more what?" "Baby milk," Charles said evenly and got up to start the coffee machine like he'd planned originally. Surely no one could be that obtuse. "For your daughter," Charles said slowly. "Newborns often need feeding every 2 or 3 hours." Fox's eyes widened dramatically. "Oh, no," he said, shaking his head. "I can't do that." He actually took a step away from the table where Abigail's carrier was, panic washing over his features. "I can help," Charles offered before he thought about what a bad idea it was, one he wished instantly he hadn't uttered, one he knew he was going to regret. Fox nodded enthusiastically, and Charles sighed, rubbing the space between his eyes. "The Omegas can look after her during the day when you're working, but at night, she's all yours." Fox visibly paled, and for a second Charles wondered if this was something more, not just a crimp in his plans to conquer female hearts wherever he went. He shook off the thought, though. "I'm going for a shower and to get Mo and Daniel their breakfast. Go take her to see Marco while I'm doing that." "Marco's here." They both turned as Marco walked into the kitchen, smiling broadly. "Come on, Daddy," he teased Fox. "Let's go have a look at her." It was a good thing that neither of them was looking at him as they walked away, Fox finally holding the infant carrier. Charles knew the echo of loss would be all over his face, and he pressed his palms to his face to hide behind them. But they couldn't hide his memories. The first one was especially cruel. He'd been 15 the day his first child had been born, terrified. But the second the mate of one of Samson's gammas had placed her in his arms, he had fallen instantly in love. She'd been tiny, but utterly perfect. He'd known immediately that he was going to call her Charlotte after the only wolf he remembered from before who had been kind to him. He'd had the best hour of his life, until Samson had returned home and taken her from him. He couldn't go through that again, and he knew the further he let this pregnancy go, the worse it would be when he eventually lost it. Charles closed the door and leaned his head against it. He wasn't telling anyone. Not yet. He didn't need to hear Marco say that, sorry, this little one would be unlucky 13. He wanted to just keep it a secret for a little bit longer, until this dream got taken away as well.